There are some new Yu-Gi-Oh decks that are going to be relevant into the meta. Crossover Breakers introduces 3 new archetypes that we need to talk about, but also shifts the meta ever so slightly to allow some other decks to compete. Today, not only will I be talking about the decks from Crossover Breakers, there's also some other decks that can become really competitive because of it. Let's go ahead and jump on in. What's going on with ya, big dog? And it is an amazing day for Yu-Gi-Oh! I hope that your day phenomenal. But if it isn't, don't let what happened at the beginning of your day ruin the rest of your day. And as it should be, I apologize for the week break, but it is a particular time where we talk about something to not only benefit you as a player, but more importantly, benefit you as a person overall. Big dogs, it is that time of the year where family has to come first. Not only do I understand the assignment, I actually encourage it. Statistically, a lot of happens more at this time of the year than other times of the year, and a lot of times it could be prevented by just talking to the person. I wasn't expecting to get into this type of deep conversation, but it's really, really important to me. Please, guys, reach out to your friends, family, and loved ones and let them know they are loved. Your love, care, and appreciation could be that thing that helps somebody through a hard time. And if you guys have nowhere to go, no one to talk to, I urge you guys to join my Discord. Look, you clicked on this video because you love Yu-Gi-Oh! My boys are amazing. It is a solid group of guys that I know you'll love to be around. But another awesome thing that is coming out is this new Crossover Breaker set. It's set to make its release in the first week of December, and it actually may be worth buying, like as a set. This set is incredibly similar to sets like Tactical Masters, Valiant Smashers, and Amazing Defenders, so it's bound to have some really cool staples and a high rarity upgrade for them. On top of that, having 2 really good strategies that get support in the next upcoming sets off the boot, I think that it may be worth investing into this set. But we have to find out what are the exact cards first. I may be getting a little bit too ahead of myself, but I'm genuinely excited for this set. It already has 2 ready-made, really strong strategies that are thought of to be some of the top contenders in the next upcoming meta. But it also has another strategy that's really cool looking. It actually reminds me of Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald when it comes to Kyogre, Groudon, and Rayquaza. Now, it may be the weaker of the 3 in the OCG, but the Ryuji strategy could actually be pretty good. Ryujis are based off of 3 cast-off types, Dinosaur, Sea Serpent, and Worm, and their main deck monsters fetch you their spell cards, which in turn their spell cards boost up their monsters. Baba, Yomba, and Kaiba are the 3 main deck monsters, and they resemble Groudon, Kyogre, and Rayquaza. And the cool thing about these 3 cards aren't limited to just their strategy. They can actually be a benefactor to some of the other strategies. Take, for example, a lot of people are experimenting using Kaiba inside of their Dino deck. The dinosaur thing is there, and Kaiba actually does fit in decently well. Uwamba is a sea serpent and can be searched with Atlantean Dragoons, so Mermail players are considering trying to figure out a way to incorporate this card. And for Baba, it's, well, True Draco could be something. Probably not, though. Even if you aren't playing the Ryuji cards inside of opposite decks, it actually comes together as a pretty fun looking deck. It even has a pendulum mechanic inside of it, as well as a ritual mechanic inside of it, an interesting blend. I don't think that this will be a top deck right now, but it is a fascinating strategy that you can mix and match inside of other strategies to potentially make them stronger. The next strategy from Crossover Breakers is Malice, and this deck is really, really cool, especially if you like cyber strategies. Basically what Malice is, it's almost like chess meets Alice in Wonderland. That's pretty much the theme. And to simplify all of the Malice monsters effects, anytime a Malice monster is banished, you can pay some life points and bring them right back to your side of the field. They also have some effects to be able to get you a ton of advantage. The 3 main cards, Dormouse, White Rabbit, and Cheshire Cat, allow you to be able to banish a Malice monster, set a Malice trap card, or banish a Cyberse monster to draw 2 cards respectively. They also give your Link Malice monsters benefits if they are pointing to that monster, which is pretty cool. Another huge component about the Malice deck is their trap cards, and they're actually insane. They all have an effect that you can activate them to turn at their set by banishing a Malice monster. So essentially, you can dodge cards like Infinite Impermanence and Effect Veiler just by setting these cards face down before you summon your Malice monster, which I think is pretty cool. Now, Malice MTP07, TB11, GWC05 are very weird cards. cards. 100% weird because of their names, not because of their effects. Allowing you to add a Malice monster from your deck to your hand, then banish a card if you control a Link monster, special summon Malice monsters from your deck or extra deck, or special summon a Malice monster from your graveyard or banishment, then gain life points if you control a Link monster. All three of those cards are huge. It allows the deck to build a continuous engine to gain some huge amount of advantage. But the best part about it is that this is a Cyber's deck. It's searchable through cards like Signet Mining, and can use cards like Dotscaper to continue on its combo. It also can link into some really powerful monsters like Firewall, Dark Fluid Dragon to be able to send cards from the extra deck to the graveyard. The world is your playground of Malice, and it's simply because the deck can be really versatile because it has access to so much Cybers. And seeing that it is a deck that wants to have its cards banished, Dimension Shifter is huge. I think that that's going to be a card that can really take over the game going forward. You see, currently in Yu-Gi-Oh, the top decks in the game right now are Snake Eyes, Yubel, and Tenpai Dragon. Then there are some other good decks like Mermel, Memento, Centurion, and the list goes on. You see, the big problem with that is that outside of Tenpai Dragon, the decks that I listed are all pretty weak to Dimension Shifter. And the big reason why we know this is because if they weren't weak to Dimension Shifter, then they would be playing Dimension Shifter. If you guys want to see a full list on a tier list that has all of the strongest decks, go ahead and check out my meta tier list I got right here. It's a really good video. Now, I'm not even going to hold you. Malice is a deck that TJ could probably never play. Raizo is a deck that TJ literally picked up and started playing within a second. And it's because Raizo might just be the easiest deck to learn in Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm not saying that it's brainless, I'm just saying that it's really easy. Now, to put it in TJ words, all of your Raizo monsters search the other Raizo monster. So if you have a Fire Thunder, you can get into your Light Pyro cards. The Light Pyro monsters being Ice Raizo and EX Raizo, respectively, can special summon a Raizo monster from your deck, or can summon itself to the side of the field by sending an XE monster from your extra deck to the graveyard, and then add one Fire Thunder from your deck to your hand. Now, your Fire Thunder monsters in Thode in Node Raizo. Thode Raizo special summons itself if you have a Raizo monster on your field, and then of course it adds that Light Pyro Raizo from your deck to your hand. And Node can summon itself if you have an XE monster on your field in graveyard, and then could summon a Raizo monster from your graveyard to your field. All four of these cards are interconnecting with one of another. That means that when you start off with one of your Raizos, odds are you have the other ones to your arsenal. And basically what you want to do is you want to XE summon into Dual Drive to be able to get your spell and trap cards from your deck to your hand, and then eventually get into your Raizo Detonator. And Detonator is probably one of the better, more balanced cards that Konami has ever created. You see, typically in Yu-Gi-Oh, Konami gets really lazy and just puts a negate on top of a card, but I actually like what they did to Detonator. And instead of making a negate, it says anytime your opponent activates a card or effect, you can detach a material to destroy a card on the field. This gives agency to the person playing the card, but also allows the other player to be able to play Yu-Gi-Oh! They just have to play Yu-Gi-Oh! In a different way. The deck is pretty good against hand traps and makes Nibiru pretty useless thanks to Raizo Plugin and Raizo Cross, the cards that can be searched with your Duo Drive. Plugin special summons a Raizo monster from your graveyard or banishment, and this is the reason why Dimension Shifter is so good for this deck. And Raizo Cross gives you the unique ability to be able to negate a monster effect when it resolves. And there's a huge difference between negating a monster effect's activation and negating an effect when it resolves. Let's take, for example, a card like Super Polymerization that says this card's activation cannot be negated. Well, hypothetically, if Raizo Cross could negate Super Polymerization, it would, because it's not negating the activation of the card, it's negating the effect when it resolves. I really couldn't think of any monsters that said this card's effect cannot be negated, because typically those are on really broken cards. But having Raizo Cross being able to stop the resolution of card effects is pretty cool. Now, like I promised you guys before, there are two Yu-Gi-Oh! Strategies that have nothing to do with this set that are winners. And like usual, I will be sure to put personal deck lists on my Patreon as a special thank you for helping me pay my editors. And I found out that these decks were some of the most successful in the OCG when Raizo and Malice were some of the best decks. And the first one would surprise you because it's the other chess-like Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck in Labyrinth. Labyrinth is not bad under Dimension Shifter. I wouldn't say this is a strategy that thrives under it, I would say that it survives. But Labyrinth does offer some key counters to both Raizo and Malice that they don't see coming. The biggest one is traps. Trap cards are starting to actually earn their place in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where Raizo is just focused on being able to negate monster effects or destroy cards when your opponent activates card effects. Trap cards are a little bit different. They kind of don't care. Destroying a trap card that's already designated to be sent to the graveyard doesn't do anything for you. And oftentimes, trap cards can address that type of situation. There's also Labyrinth being able to search Dimensional Barrier, which is kind of like an FTK against Raizo. The deck is specifically just an XC deck. It doesn't have any boss monsters inside of the main deck. And once you can start using Dimensional Barrier to shut them out of that, you can continuously do it, and they're not going to be in a good spot. Against Malice, the approach is a little bit different. If you play your cards right, you're unaffected by Dimension Shifter, which is a plus. But you probably have also noticed that the same things that work against Raizo won't really work against Malice. Malice is extra deck reliant, but Dimensional Barrier doesn't work against Lynx. And while your trap cards can be really good, Dominus Impulse is still crazy against the deck. What you're going to be lacking is that it factor to be able to clear your opponent's board, until there's Destructive Daruma Cannon, one of the most powerful trap cards in the game that flips monsters face down, preventing them from being linked, or sends them to the graveyard if they can't be flipped face down. There's a little bit of a hint. Link monsters cannot be flipped face down. So Labyrinth has put itself in a pretty good position to be able to go against both of those strategies and actually still be a solid contender. I think that that's one of the strategies that gets a really big boost. The next one is going to be Goblin Biker. If you look at the OCG statistics, Raizo is a tier 0 type Yu-Gi-Oh deck. And while I don't expect that to happen in the TCG, especially since we don't have all of the cards that they have just yet, I do expect Raizo to be a decent player inside of the format. Unfortunately for them, they're an Xyz deck that has to have materials on their Xyz monsters, and Goblin Biker pretty much thrives on that. Goblin Biker has been biding its time, waiting for an XC deck to be a tier 1 Yu-Gi-Oh strategy. In case you didn't know, the Goblin Biker monsters all detach materials from XC monsters to summon themselves to the side of the field. And they're not discriminate on whose XC monster it is. Yours, your opponent's, the person beside you. Whoever in the room just so happens to have XC monsters, these goblins are thieves, and they are stealing materials to summon themselves. And I think that's one of the major advantages that the strategy does have over everything else. Now against Malice, it's a little bit more even, and that's simply because Malice isn't a XC deck. But like I said before, Raizo is almost a tier 0 deck inside of the OCG. I can only imagine in the TCG, there's going to be a ton of players that are going to think the same thing and pick up their Raizo cards. And that just means you can slide in with a $20 Goblin Biker deck and cook them for a budget. The new meta is actually getting exciting, and the new decks that come into it are going to be crazy. I can't wait to see what people cook with Ryuji, but also I can't wait to see what Malice and Raizo do. But until then, big dog, you can go ahead and check out these videos if you want to see more amazing content. I can't wait to see you, so I'll catch you on the next one.